Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. We're back with a ranking tier list video. Today we're looking at the new archetypes from 2022. I did this almost 3 months ago, so I'm doing an update here. We've got a handful of new archetypes and some stuff we'll talk about as far as what the next update will include, as far as support and also other new archetypes that we're going to be expecting to get just in the next couple of months as well. Probably 3 months later, we could have another 5 archetypes easily to look at, maybe even more than that. So let's get into this. We already did a bunch of these already, but some of this stuff has moved. We've gotten support for some of these archetypes that have legitimately changed them, whether they're out officially in the TCG or not. We know from some stuff in Power of the Elements, even though it's not out yet, some support that actually does help a lot. So let's just start here. Let's go down the list. Libromancer, I think we had it in like D tier maybe before. I actually think Libromancer is surprisingly decent. Are they good enough for B tier? They're probably low B tier, honestly. The new support, honestly, is pretty good. Fire is really good for them. I think he was the main really good card from the new support. I think they also got an Omni Negate, which helps. So, they're fine. I think or actually, maybe they already had the Omni Negate. I can't remember. But the one thing I underestimated is any ritual deck that comes out now in 2021 has the potential to take advantage of some of the amazing ritual support we already have. Konami's known that it's an underwhelming type of monster in the game, so they have given it insane support cards. We have Diviner of the Herald. We have cards that, like Dogmatica, helping you send stuff like Herald of the Arc, to get free ads for ritual monsters, right? So the consistency is there. The power is a little bit lower. I think the ceiling for the deck is a little bit lower, but from what I've seen, I've actually been somewhat impressed for the deck. So I think it's probably low B tier, but it'll be the first deck in B tier. Vernalizer Fairy. I think I'm going to throw this in C tier for now. As of right now, it has not been out long in the OCG, but I have not seen a ton of results for this. Until I see more shown from it, I'm going to have to throw it in C tier. I do think the potential is there, and in fact, I thought this had more potential than Libromancer, but that was also after the first wave. Libromancer got an entire new wave of support after that, 7 new cards. Not all of them are great, but we saw with Beat Troopers, they didn't need a huge banger wave. They only need 1 or 2 good cards. That's kind of what they got, and they're a playable deck. So I'm going to leave it in C tier until we actually see legitimately good ways to play the deck. We'll leave it at just C tier and roll with that. From there, we move to Splites. This is another new one. This is coming out in Power of the Elements alongside Vernalizer Fairies. It's S tier for me. I know this is crazy. We've thrown stuff like Adventure up here in S tier before in the last list, but that's because it's such a splashable engine. It's in almost every deck in the game, unless a deck is just so good without it, it doesn't need it. But Splites are crazy. They're going to be the best deck in the game when they come out. Trust me. Right now, they're representing 60% of top cut spots in the OCG right now, and that's a format in which they have Max C, and you could argue, oh, they do combos where they add X Max C to hand. Yeah, they do that, but also that's one of the few hand traps that actually does hurt them a decent bit that we don't have in this format. And so we only have little dink and dunk hand traps that don't do nearly as much in terms of impacting them as much as Max C. So it's good for them, but it's also not. So yeah, Splites S tier. Tier Elements. This is the top of A tier. I believe this archetype is going to end up being tier 1 as soon as it drops. I was very surprised where the first week of the OCG when it dropped, it wasn't tier 1, but now it's literally showing results that are second only to Splite. They're representing the second best deck in the game. If you read over the cards in this archetype, they all read insane. It's like a new aged fusion-based Lightsworn that's just way better. They're all good to send and good to draw. At the same time for the most part. And so the brickiness is not there that Lightsworn has, but you still have that easy generic send clause that gets all of them triggered. You get to really powerful boss fusion monsters. You can take advantage of stuff like Winda really easily. There are a lot of really nasty points, and it'll combine with a lot of the fusion support we already have going on right now. Branded stuff and the others. Despia potentially. So really, really strong. Top of A tier for me. Absolutely. Next up, we move to ggolem. This is a Linked Vrains archetype that we finally got imported about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. We got finally revealed. It's very small, though. There's a handful of Link monsters. I think there's only 2 main deck monsters, being this guy, Pebble Dog, and the Hammer, and only 1 or 2 spells. So it's a very small archetype. It's very hard to judge in my opinion, but it is pretty generically splashable with like other Cyberse engines. The problem is that now that we have code talkers and we're getting the new math mix support and we've already got adignisters, like I just kind of sit here and I go, I feel like ggolem's just kind of outclassed by a lot of these Cyberse engines that already exist. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier, even lower than Vernalizer Fairy. It could be the lowest thing on the list, to be honest, coming into this list. But yeah, unfortunately, it's just too small. They feel like they need a little bit more. Maybe they'll surprise me. Some of their link monsters are kind of crazy in the way they allow you to extend, but until I actually see them like prove a little bit more and actually prove they're like a worthwhile engine in Cyberse decks, it's going to be hard for me to justify playing this engine over the Code Talker stuff, the Math Mix stuff, all of that stuff, and even just the generic awesome cards like Lady Debug, right? So we'll see. Then we have Adventure. I think I still have to put Adventure over Splight, which feels insane because Splight's going to be the best deck in the game, but like Adventure's just so stupid. It's so fucking stupid. I think the splashability means like it's going to be played in like, right now it's played in what? 4 of the 5 best decks in the format? Maybe 3 of the 5 that aren't. Maybe some like pure Despia lists I think have been leaning off of it, and what, like Fluanderies, and other than that, like every other deck that's like top table and even top rogue like probably plays this engine. It's too widely played. It's insanely good. Generic to gate. Now it has a legal knight, so it's technically even better than it was before, especially going second. Yeah, I'm definitely looking at it S tier. Labyrinth. I made a joke last time and I threw it up in S tier. It's definitely not S tier. I don't even think it's A tier, but I do think it's higher than Libromancer as of right now. We'll see. Because a lot of these archetypes are going to be like open for more support down the line. So this could obviously change, but I think they look really strong out the gate. I think they're going to end up being one of the better trap decks in the game. Obviously, trap decks don't do the best going second. That is definitely a drawback here, but I do think, I do think this deck will give a run towards the metagame, because what it does is like insane. Once it gets going, like the duel is gone. You go +5 as you turn back to your next turn, and it's insane. Really, really powerful deck. Therians. I think I'm also going to throw Therians above tier elements, kind of just for the splashability factor. I don't think it's quite S tier, but it is very, very good. The fact that we're seeing Sun Avalon going to potentially be tier 1 in this format. Earth Machine. A lot of people talking about Earth Machine. Earth Machine was already topping events with like the really good players on it before this, and now obviously this takes it to the next level. Punk Therian, maybe even Predaplant Therian, and those are some of the liked versions as well. Just because it's splashable and it's going to be played in multiple decks, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Also ABC Therian, that's the other one, of being above tier elements, even though they may be higher tier, like literally like very top of tier 1, while maybe some Therian decks are just kind of bottom tier 1, top of tier 2 rogue stuff. I just think there's so many decks that are going to be trying to fit this in that it kind of makes me want to lean towards them on the list. Next up, we move to Valiants. I think I had Valiants in A tier last time. I'm dropping them down, man. I'm dropping them down to low B tier. Maybe I'll still put them over Libromancer, just because they're pendulum and it's still so hard to say. But I have seen almost nothing with Valiants in the OCG at all. Like, I really thought that the mechanics seemed pretty good, but they do have restrictions on them, obviously. I guess the restrictions have kind of been a little bit too much for pen players to really want to mess around with. Plus, now that we've lost DPE, it's not as good an engine going forward, because the argument was like, oh, well, even if our play isn't like great, they just help us, boom, plop, 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 couple extenders on the board, Verte into DPE, and we can at least play the grind game. Draw 2 cards next turn to reestablish scales and make a big pen summon on the follow-up. That's not really what you're able to do anymore. So you definitely I'm definitely not exactly sure where this deck's going to line up. It feels like half the cards in the archetype are garbage, but the other half are decent. It's just hard to get a scale on them. Plus, we haven't seen any support for them yet. So like maybe Konami gives them something that like pushes them up. But like until we see it, I got to put them in mid B tier. I had them in A tier before because I thought pendulums could make a resurgence, but no, I think they're moving down for me, funny enough. Next up, we have Dinomorphia. I think I'll put Dinomorphia here. Man, they're close. I think these two are close. I think they're going to go down going forward, like as far as trap decks go. I think they're going to be there right there behind Eldritch as far as being the most like scary trap decks in the game. I think these just are showing power creep of decks like Altergeist. I think these decks are just downright better and more smooth at like rotating the engine than decks like Altergeist. But, you know, feel free to prove me wrong. Plus, they even have the splash ability. You know what? No, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. I was going to say that this engine is a little bit like generically splashable, so maybe that gives them a little bit of bonus, but I'm going to leave them in B tier. Next up, we have Mr. Rune, also B tier for me. I think I'm going to put them at the top of B tier. Just because it does have generic splashability. It's just very generic engine. Otherwise, doesn't need a normal summon. All it does is lock you out of your next turn's battle phase every time you use their cards. So you do have to be careful about going into time. So for competitive play, I do worry about an engine like this. But listen, I'm not arguing against the power. The power is definitely there. The grindability is definitely there. It just depends if people are going to be like willing to play this engine knowing the drawbacks are there. But I still think it's good, and I think it's one of those archetypes where it could get the biggest buff from like one good card if it's the right kind of card. Next up is Punk. I think Punk is A tier, but I think it's lower. Oh, is it A tier? I think I'm going to... No. Oh, man, this is tough. I'm going to put them in low A tier. Yeah, I think so. They're a splashable engine. They're seeing a little bit less splashability than they did last format because of Auroradon getting banned, and they did facilitate house plays pretty well. But they're still a good engine. We're seeing them played with Punk Therian right now. I have people telling me that after the 2 cards they get in Power of the Elements, they get actually to be a legit rogue deck as a pure variant. So we'll see about that. But yeah, you got to respect them. This engine is really strong. It just gets you a ton of value off of just 1 card starters with a discard. It's really powerful. Next up is Scarecrow. Scarecrow definitely moves up here because since I think the last time we looked at them, they showed off their new Link 1. I think it helps the deck. I just don't know if it's enough. I think it works with Tri-Brigade decently well, but I think it's one of those decks that works okay with Tri-Brigade, but like what's the point of playing a deck that's like a less good Tri-Brigade variant when you could just play the best Tri-Brigade variant, which has got to be either Lyrilusk or Zodiac. So it's just kind of weird, or even pure with the other stuff, with the branded stuff. But it's hard to say. I think I'll put them. Oh, no, you know what? I'm putting them behind Libromancer. I still think even with their Link 1 that Libromancer seems better to me. Can I do that? I don't know. It's really close. I'm just going to kind of jumble them up here. Just know that they're all kind of close to each other. And then the last archetype we have here is Exo Sisters. Since the last time we ranked them, they got amazing support. They were like low C tier for me last time. They got Malfa, this artwork card, and a new trap card, Lutania. They get a huge buff. I think they're legit high-level rogue. They are a legit terrifying deck for the metagame to be worried about. And I think you gotta keep an eye on them because they're just really scary. Malfa's so strong. I almost want to put them above these because this deck goes second a little bit better than these because you're just not playing a ton of trap cards. But I'd probably put it still below Mr. Rune because I still think Mr. Rune will have a chance to be like tier 1 potentially if people can like fix it, and it's just so splashable, so that makes me want to give it the edge as well. But yeah, I think this feels pretty good. Just real quick before we finish the list here, come back to this. Animation Chronicle, just for the OCG, they have like almost 30 more cards to reveal. There could easily be another Link Frames archetype or another archetype that just hasn't been imported to the TCG or just the card game, the physical card game yet in there. We have Deck Build Pack Amazing Defenders. We're like, what is that, August 20th? So we're like 3 months away from this. So in the next 3 months, we will just get all 3 of these archetypes revealed. Darkwing Blast, they've started reveals for that. We'll probably get another 1 or 2 archetypes in this set, so that will be huge. And then Power of the Elements, we do have confirmed a new TCG exclusive archetype in here as well, but we don't find it out until the beginning of August. So a bunch of new archetypes coming. That could easily be 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 new archetypes in the next 3 months to add to this list. But all in all, I have to just say bravo Konami. Like, I have to say, looking at this list, you've got everything is like B tier or higher. And this is most of this, but some of this stuff is like Labyrinth, Mr. Rune, Valiants, Tier Element, Splites, like don't even have their first next wave of support. Vernalizer fairies too. We've talked about, and like even the ones in C tier, like I do still think there's potential here. I just haven't really seen it shown off yet. So like I just think Konami's doing a good job at like, what's the point in making a new archetype and then just having it be like D tier? Like, you know what I mean? At least make it okay. So I really respect that Konami's been doing a great job with new archetypes. Hopefully they keep it up. Let me know your thoughts on the list here and what you disagree with. This is just where I think these line up currently. I will get you an update in the next couple months when we finally get those new archetypes revealed. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in the next videos. Subscribe if you have not yet and you want to see more stuff from me. And I'm out of here. Peace.